Common to fulfillingness belly sting. A show dedicated to aligning a journey to a better mental health using the understandings of the ancient Norse. Join us each weekday morning at 7 a.m. Alaska time. Someone's little girl, daughter, sister, girlfriend, fiance, wife, cousin, mother, auntie, grandmother, great grandmother, elder, disappears, shattering, a family, a community, the world. There is something we can all do. Remember them. Look at that.
Good morning and happy Money's Day to you today. We're talking about the Norse god money, and of course, the Norse recognized money as being the moon, brother to soul, the sun. Talking about the balance that we can obtain in our lives by intellect and questioning. So we'll dive down deep and as we talk about the money's influence within our everyday life. Before I get started, I want to say a huge thank you to all of you who have liked, followed, and subscribed. You can also subscribe to our newsletter as well, that you'll be recapped each week. We kind of recap all of our morning shows as well as the runes for this week. And many other things are included in our newsletter. You can find out more information about that at our website, where you can also learn more about me, my teachings, my shows, many different things about my services, including the life coaching. You can find all of those at NorseWhispers.com. Anything you need to know about me should be there. I want to give a huge thank you again to all of you who have liked, followed, and subscribed. And certainly, if you haven't had a chance, please feel free to do so. You can do so on any of the video platforms or the audio platforms at which you can subscribe to. And as always, I want to give a huge shout out to my friends and family at New Reality TV. newrealitytv.com is a wonderful place that just a huge collection of different perspectives that offer us this spiritual growth and hopefully that piece of intellect that you're looking for that will reveal your path. A wonderful place. For those of you who might have a few extra coins jingling around in the pocket, want to put them to good use, by all means, check out my donation site. There you can donate as often and as much and little as you need. Know that each of the donations go to either our electronic platform directly of keeping the site up and keeping the things together, or for our travel. Of course, we visit all kinds of places both here in the United States and abroad. So check those out. And again, if you have any extra coins and want to donate, please feel free to do so. Today we're talking about Mani, and we're talking about the influences that Mani brings into our lives. Mani was recognized by the Norse, the moon, and so they looked to him to offset the heat of the day, drop the temperatures overnight and allow it to be kind of temperate during the day. So it was this balance of temperature, but not only a balance in temperature, but a balance in our gaining of intellect, which was a really exciting part of what Mani brought to our understanding. Mani, of course, well, whenever we have darkness or dark energy, we have a pull or consider it a vacuum of intellect. So when we are going through the day, through the sunshine of the day, soul is up in the sky, all right? And we're gaining intellect. We're seeing the world. We're experiencing the world around us. And we're absorbing all of that. We're gaining those experiences. And so as soul makes her way through the morning, particularly the morning sky, she's bringing us intellect. She's allowing us to learn. She's teaching us. She's showing us the way going forward. And then as all of this intellect comes into our mind and soul begins her descent down into the horizon, our minds are beginning to question what we've just learned, the intellect. Now remember, when we talk about energy and we talk about creation and absorption of energy from the universe, universal energy is always of a neutral polarity. So it can't be anything else. The spiritual realm is just so vast. For us to have a positive or negative, it would simply neutralize based on the vastness of the spiritual realm. So any positivity or positive energy or negative energy for that matter is just dissipated into the vastness of what the spiritual realm is. So universal energy coming from the gods, coming from other spiritual entities, coming from anywhere, really, entering into our aura is neutral in its polarity, and it's us who will then convert it to an either positive light or a negative. That's on us. So this is dark energy is a little different. Dark energy and light energy. Light energy, as I just mentioned, comes from soul, and it comes from other places as well, but it's illuminated. It's educated. It's intellect. It's those parts of energy particles that provides for us some level of understanding, of recognition, of a way to grasp ideas and concepts and thoughts. All of this is intellect, and it's considered light energy. Now, conversely, part of that light energy is as that light energy comes into our mind and into our memories, it's going to create these like threads that are going to weave it into our minds. And these threads are then can produce negative energies. Scratch that. They can produce dark energies. Sorry about that. They produce a dark energy, which then creates a vacuum. Now, as an example, if you've ever noticed when we learn something, right? We learn this really cool new skill. How does that skill apply to this situation, right? Have you ever had those questions? Of course, because as we gain intellect, we're trying to interrelate it with other things, with other knowledge that we already have, right? So we're gaining intellect, and then that intellect is then going to drive questions. That's the beauty of light energy to dark energy. Is the light energy is this illumination, it's this intellect that we're gaining from the universe. Then it's going to slide into a dark energy. Wow, I'm just off this morning, sorry. Going to slide into a dark energy, which is then going to create a vacuum for more intellect. We want to learn more. This is what drives us, right? So daytime, we're gaining all kinds of knowledge. and then it slides into Mani rising in the sky, creating that draw of more and more intellect. So we're forming these questions, and that's what dark energy is. Imagine, if you will, as an analogy, coming out into your home, and it's the darkest dark nights, and it is dark. No night lights or nothing like that. It's very, very dark. Well, chances are, as you move through the room, you're probably going to smack a toe or a shin or something on a piece of furniture, maybe a toy, or maybe even, if you have pets in the home. All of these things, we may stumble upon them because we can't see, right? So this is the same idea with dark energy. We can't see. So how do we see in a darkened room? As an example, well, we turn on the light. We illuminate the dark energy. We're illuminating. We're providing intellect. And so dark energy is simply the draw, the vacuum of more intellect, of more light energy. So that's really what dark energy is. Dark energy is just the pull for us, that space that allows us to then illuminate ourselves and our path forward. So Mani and his venture through the night sky was simply providing us relativity to the intellect or the illumination that soul had brought during yesterday's daytime. Right? And so really understanding this and embracing this as in our personal lives is really advantageous, because it allows us then to really create a drive forward, right? Because we always want to learn more. We always want to know more. Right? How does this intellect that we just received, how does this imagery or this emotion, how does that interrelate with what I already have? How does it connect? And by recognizing the value of dark energy, we can actually create a draw. One of the stories my great-grandfather taught me was this idea that when we ask ourselves questions, we're sitting around and how does that work? Have you ever noticed how you kind of begin to focus on that thing? And we're really kind of focused on it. And if we stew on it long enough, something will eventually occur. We'll gain some level of intellect. Well, why is that? Well, honestly, what we've done at the same time as we've asked ourselves this question, we didn't simply ask ourselves, we asked the universe. And the universe is now providing us with some level of intellect. So we're asking the question not only of our own mind, but once it gets into our memories, i.e. our past, then it's going to connect to the social or to the spiritual side of our brain. The spiritual side of our brain is going to reach out into the spiritual realm with this dark energy, and it's going to create a vacuum for particular pieces of intellect. So it's going to draw that intellect into our minds. Now, this process of establishing this pathway from the physical mind, i.e. the sensory input mind, through the memories, and then through the spiritual mind, out into the spiritual realm to draw back this intellect is a process that we will learn fairly early in our lives. Believe it or not, even as an infant, as we lie in our bassinets or our cradles, we're asking ourselves questions. We're asking, why does this work the way it does? Why does this do what it does? Mostly we're focused on moving and obtaining control over our physical form, but there are some intellect pieces that we're going to draw from. As an example, very early in our existence, physical existence, we're going to inquire about how do we keep this heart beating? How do we keep drawing air? How do we keep pumping the blood through our system? So there's a lot of these questions that are going to come to mind as our physical form is kind of developing. What does it mean to have arms and legs and all of the things that we do, whatever state they're in? And how do I move forward? How do I do this? How do I think? All of these questions. So we're asking these questions not of just our newly developed physical mind, but we're asking it through the memories, through the spiritual mind, and out into the spiritual realm, where we are asking for a very specific type of intellect. So we're calling on that intellect to then come down. And then we'll actually store it in memory in much the same way that we do all of our physical sensory input. We'll put it in our brain and we'll use it, right? So we'll build this thing called the autonomic system, which then kind of does everything, right? It does everything for us. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to maintain or babysit it. It just kind of does its thing. All of that intellect comes to us from the spiritual realm in the very early parts of our infancy or our development. So, Mani presents this vacuum of more intellect, of learning more, of relating, of creating experiences that relates then this intellect to the intellect that we already have in our memories. Whatever that looks like. And with that comes potentially imagery. Remember, each particle of energy that we're ingesting is imagery, emotions, and intellect, right? And so those three parts are part of each of these particles of energy that we're drawing in, and we're actually pushing into, through our thought process, into our memories. And so all of this is we're attempting to ascertain from each experience that we have. Remember, the experience is simply our sensory inputs, interpretation of what's going on out here. Whether it be visual, whether it be audio, smell, taste, or actual touch. All of that sensory input comes in and is processed as an experience. And as I mentioned before, our experiences are snapshots. One snapshot after another, right? One frame processed through our emotional processor, one frame at a time. All very important, and all ways that we can understand how we get information and how we get energy. Now, having said that, the universe is purely neutral energy. Purely. There is no other way energy can exist in the spiritual realm, just because of its vastness, right? The physical realm, however, there does exist positive and negative energies. These energies are expelled, are emitted from other forms, other physical forms. Now, it takes biochemistry, that unique experience that we can only have in a physical form. It takes this biochemistry to convert energy from its neutral state to either positive or negative, right? So we have to have this physical form, this body, to create negative or positive energy. So, and we, you and I, have a choice. We can choose to generate one or the other. We always have a choice. We alone alter the polarity of energy by our thought process. So if our thought processes are negative, we got out of bed this morning a little bit grumpy, woke up on the wrong side, and we're more or less, kind of negative in our leaning, we're going to create negative energies by the experiences that we have. Conversely, if we wake up and we're in a very good mood, as an example, poof, all of the energy that we're going to emit is more positive in its orientation. Now again, this is only for physical forms, right? Spiritual entities can't do this. They cannot manipulate energies on the fly. They may have some negative energies that were stored during their physical lives, during their physical existences, that they emit, that they process over. But as they emit it, because they are in the spiritual realm, it's going to neutralize as it transmits between them and us. So again, we are never going to receive negative energies from the universe. We're never going to receive positive energies from the universe. We alone are going to create that polarity. All right? All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk about how you and I can use our understanding of money and what he brings to our existence to help make our mental health that little much better. All right? So let's take a real quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
The air. The time is now.
We're all waking up.
We're waking up.
We're all waking up.
It's all shifting.
New vibrations.
It's you.
It's you.
It's me. It's all of us.
Together.
A new time.
A new day.
A new energy.
A new energy.
New reality.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
Awaken with us.
newrealitytv.com.
All right, welcome back, and thank you for taking that quick break with us. Today we're talking about establishing the balances of money and what that means to us in our everyday life. Well, the first thing we talked about was us having the choice, us being in charge, us creating the polarity between the energy that we receive as being either negative or positive in its orientation. So, our first task for today, as we begin our new work week, if you will, is we're going to look at that and going to figure out that, well, firstly and foremost, I want you to know that you have a choice. You can choose whether we're going to be positive or negative and how we're going to admit that. All right? Because remember, whatever state of mind that you're in at the moment is what you emit. So if we're in a positive, excited, wonderful mood, that's the energy that we're going to produce. Now, others around you, I know this is going to sound a little odd, but others around you are going to absorb that energy, whether you're actually communicating with them or not. In other words, you're kind of emitting this as kind of this light going around, right? So everyone who interacts with you within some certain distance, and sometimes doesn't have to be around our physical form, it can go all the way across the Midgard, it can go everywhere. They're going to they're going to absorb some of your light energy, some of your positivity. You're going to make their day just a little bit brighter. Conversely, if you're doing it with negative energy, same thing is going to apply, right? Now, one of the things I want you to kind of pay attention to today is, and again, depending how you wake up this morning, is pay attention to what mood you're in. And here's why. the mood you're in is going to dictate what you can actually see. Your brain does several interpretations of this sensory input as it's received, both audio, video, even the rest of them. Now, all sensory input is going to go through a filter. And this filter is going to be adjusted by what I call the mood ring. And the mood ring essentially assigns our mental states, values, to the input it's receiving in a sensory input. So, if we're in a grumpy mood, that lone flower that is coming up through the ground in this otherwise dull area will be overlooked. We won't see it. We'll see the dull area, but we won't see the beautiful flower struggling to bring beauty to that area. Our brains will simply ignore that one piece. We won't be able to find the beauty, the happiness, the joy, the harmony, contentment, comfort. All of those things will be overlooked to support the frame of mind that our mood is in. And so if we're in a great mood, we've had a wonderful night's sleep, we're ready for the day, we're excited, we're just really looking forward to all of the lessons that the universe is offering us today. When we have that mindset, we will see that flower. Our brain will highlight it. And believe it or not, you can actually eliminate all the dark stuff. I was listening to a group of people talking about the issues with homelessness, and they were talking about, and many of the people who were in the meeting were talking about, and they said, I guess I'm just not paying attention. I don't see this homeless problem, this homeless situation. I don't see homeless people. My point exactly, right? So they're in a mood, in which case their sensory input is blocking them from seeing this group of individuals, right? And so they're actually overlooking that because of their mood ring. So again, it's all about what we want to see, what we want to experience. Now, many people say, well, I just want to see the truth. That's the age-old statement, right? Well, truth doesn't always mean unicorns and rainbows. There are other things that are part of our existence. Not because it's something we would have chosen, but because it's a lesson for us to absorb, right? An experience for us to have. We have to remember the universe is going to offer these experiences throughout our lifetime, and it's up to us to decide how we're going to use those. So, today, as you go about your day celebrating and embracing this basic idea of Mani, I want you to think about what you are seeing. What do you see? Now, normally when I work with individuals who are struggling with anxiety or depression, particularly those working with depression, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to ask them to train their brain to see other things. And how do you train your brain? Well, you simply assign it a task. So in that fashion, we're going to say, brain, I want you to see, for the first 90 minutes that we're awake, I want you to see only things that bring me joy, harmony, peace, love, contentment, fulfillment. I want you to see only those things. And I'm gonna write them down. 25 things. 25 things will become 50, will become 100, will become 1,000. All right? And the 90 minutes can then extend from 90 minutes to 4 hours, from 4 hours to 8 to 24. So we are just simply training our brain to look for those things that bring us joy. Now, granted, there may be times in between that we see negativity, we see those things that we don't, unwanted experiences. But the goal is to train ourselves to look for the positive, to look for the light. All right. And so that's what I want you to spend today's Mani's Day kind of focusing on, is what things bring you joy, what brings you peace, happiness, contentment, all right, as you go about today. All right, my friends, tomorrow morning, we'll talk about mental strength and courage, certainly applying the gifts that Tyr brings us in celebration of that courage of being ourselves and walking to our own beat. All right. So enjoy your Mani's Day. Embrace the pictures that you want to see, and make sure that you're creating the reality that you want to be a part of. All right. Again, until tomorrow, my friends, love and light. We'll see you soon.
Watching Ulfhednar's Belly Snake, a special production of Whispers of the Norse. Brought to you by the Alaska ulfhednar in South Central Alaska. Guidance and wisdom, courtesy of an ancient Celtic Norse shaman. Thank you so much for joining us today.